Ear splitting before match point. Londell. Chin. Turn back and Purdue wins.
Setting up Peterson again. Block! Boilermakers do it! They survived the upset with a 3-set run to win in 5 and advance to the Sweet 16 for the 3rd consecutive year.
The block by Purdue, and the Boilermakers are moving on!
The Dig City Podcast is presented by Franciscan Health Sports Medicine, inspiring health. Franciscan is the official medical services provider of Purdue Athletics. Welcome back to the Dig City Podcast. Corey Palm alongside head coach Dave Shondell. Coach, we've got a ton to talk about as we come down the stretch of the regular season here in the fall of 2022. We'll get to the seniors in just a moment. We'll talk about the week ahead and what remains of the regular season, the tournament outlook. We've got a lot, like I said, down the road. We'll start briefly by talking about last week's action. 0-2 against two really good teams. With Ohio State coming to town and Penn State, of course. Just thoughts coming out of the weekend, and what was your message to your team after those two matches?
Always enjoy talking about two losses, but we knew it would be a challenging weekend, and I think our staff felt like we were playing well enough that we would be very competitive in those two matches. We didn't know that Ohio State would play at the level that they would play at. They continued to do that in a win against Nebraska on that following Sunday. They would have beaten anybody that night. There's just no doubt in my mind. When that match was over, I felt like we ran into an absolute buzzsaw, and every part of their game was very, very good. We were fortunate to win one set from them. They were that good. Their outside hitters were hitting shots that we had not seen them hit before. Mm-hmm. Initially you think, man, your block is that bad, your defense is that bad. But we planned for certain things, and they brought something different. And their setter was all world that night. Mac Pedraza put on a clinic against us. So we've won our fair share against Ohio State lately, which I think probably piqued their interest that night. And they came in really locked and loaded, and I will give Ohio State a ton of credit, because I think right now they are playing as well as anybody. They're playing well enough to win a national title if they can maintain that level of play. And then, I thought we had the ammunition to regroup. Whenever you get your lunch handed to you, like we did that particular night, you feel like your team is going to respond, and I think that we did. I think we came out and played a much higher level, and for 3 sets, it was terrific volleyball. I thought Purdue and Penn State played tough, put on a really good show for the 2,500 that packed Holloway Gym that night. Unfortunately, after having a 24-21 lead in that 3rd set, we let it slip away. And it wasn't that we gift wrapped it for Penn State. They dug a lot of balls and transitioned into some points, and before you know it, we lose. I think it was a 27-25 set to Penn State, and then we battled for a while earlier. But it's just a challenge sometimes to bounce back from when you have a set one to really put yourself in the driver's seat, and then you let that get away. It was hard for this team anyway to come back and compete in that 4th set. And Penn State, give them again credit. Cash Williams was really, really hard to stop that night, and our whole game plan was designed around stopping her. And yet, an athlete that the night before went 8 kills, 8 errors against Indiana, puts on a show against us. So we have the positives from that is that you all of a sudden have all these things that you need to work on to get better.
That's true.
Because they were exposed. And a lot of that to me was on the defensive end, because that's what I look at closer than anything. I got other people looking at offense. I think that those people found some things that they could work on as well, because when we needed to put balls away, we couldn't do it against Penn State, who's always been a tough-minded defensive team. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't want to call it a wake-up call, but this program is still in good shape. I will still say at this point that There's not anything that shocked me about what's happened this season, except the fact that we won 9 out of our first 10 non-conference, which put us in good shape. And then opening night, I think it was, we upset Minnesota. Maybe it was the second night of conference play. We upset Minnesota. And that put some lofty expectations for us, and we've kind of battled that a little bit throughout the season. But I'm pretty satisfied with where we are at this point, 18-8. The RPI is 22 or 23, depending on which RPI you're looking at. But the proof will be what we do down the road with the final 4 matches of Big Ten play, and it certainly appears as if we're going to be an NCAA tournament team based on the future RPI indications. And so I don't think we're going to be hosting unless we run the table here down the stretch, which will be hard to do. Otherwise, we'll be go on the road, which we've done before, and we've had some success doing that before. So I just feel like it'll come down to, as it always does, to toughness and belief in what you're doing.
We'll talk about we'll go a little bit deeper on tournament outlook here after the break. Before we do that, let's talk about the week ahead, and really the last 4 matches are kind of
happen pretty fast. There's not
do.
a lot of rest for the weary coming up. We're going to be here at home for senior night against Michigan, a team that we played pretty well in Ann Arbor just about 10 days ago, and beat them. But they're going to be hungry. They're fighting for their collective lives right now as far as NCAA tournament bid is concerned. So they're going to come in here playing with a great purpose. Then we get a day off, and then we'll be at Nebraska playing a Cornhusker team that is one of the top 5 teams in the country in my estimation, and you're playing at their place. But I think physically we can match up with them. That's going to be the key in that one is, are we going to play hard, and are we going to compete, and are we going to be physical? We're going to take big rips, and are we going to put up a better block than we put up against them the last time when they came in here and swept us at our place. And then the following Wednesday, we're at Maryland, and Maryland is a team, I keep talking about losses. We've only had 8 of them this year, but it seems like we're talking about them an awful lot. Maryland did upset us. That's the only one real blemish, and that's not a slap in the face of Maryland, because I know how good Maryland is.
Right.
I'm a little astonished that their overall win-loss record's not better than it is, because they returned about everybody from a team that just missed the NCAA tournament a year ago. And but they did beat us here, and we certainly feel like we need to go out and win that one at Maryland, but it's a tough place to play. It's maybe the smallest venue in the Big Ten. And then we have Thanksgiving, and I'm not 100% sure where that's going to be. It's going to be on the road. I think it's going to be in Happy Valley somewhere.
Okay.
And I think we've spent a Thanksgiving in Happy Valley before, to be honest with you. But we'll make the best of that. And we have such a tremendous team. It's such wonderful people. So I'm sure we'll find a way to give thanks and enjoy that particular day before the following day, playing Penn State again to wrap up the season. And then you have a day off. I think it's a Friday, then Saturday, kind of a day off, and then Sunday is the draw. And hopefully, our name will appear somewhere on that ledger, and we'll get another shot to go in and make some noise in the tournament.
Definitely. Friday night, like you said, final home match of the regular season, taking on the Wolverines. Senior night. Let's talk about that group of seniors.
Yeah.
Here a little bit. Of course, you got the 2 grad transfers and a whole handful of traditional seniors.
Yeah.
Five
seven
seniors.
players plus a trainer. That's
Yep.
done a great job for us. Bella is our trainer, and soft-spoken but very reliable. And Purdue has a tremendous athletic training school, as you know, but not everybody knows that. And one of the benefits is we normally have 2 student trainers in our gym with our head trainer. We have our own trainer. Volleyball has their very, very own Stephanie Medina, one of the best in the business. And that's a luxury. And then to have 2 others that are there, learning while they're there, but also, by the time somebody's a senior, they kind of know what they're doing too. Yeah. So it's been great to have Bella. But then we have, the 2 grad students that we will recognize as well. That's Grace Balanciefer from right here in Lafayette. That was a transfer from Northern Illinois. And then Hannah Clayton, that's from over in Bloomington Normal.
Yep.
That transferred from Iowa, and what a blessing those guys have been to our program. They have brought life and energy and maturity and team-oriented play. So that they've been tremendous for us. And then you have the 5 seniors that have just really done everything they can for this program, and they've shaped culture, and they've worked hard, and they've contributed to 2 back-to-back Elite Eights and a Sweet 16 before that, and just really proud of every one of them, the growth that they have made, and the maturity that they've shown, and where we are right now with this team. I mean, a lot of people did not think this team was going to be very good this year. They had us picked to finish 8th or 9th in the Big Ten, and that means you're probably not going to make the NCAA tournament, but here we are, most likely going back to another big dance. But start off with the 3 Maddies, because they're easy to start with. Maddie Skimmerhorn has played libero and played it very, very well. She had an injury, probably just before midseason, and she now is back at top of her game. She is such a great worker and such a great human being, and really has probably been the leader in the clubhouse, if you will. She's just been somebody that takes charge all the time when it needs to be, and does it in a very controlled and positive manner, which I think her teammates like. But she's been one of the reasons we've kept our head above water this year, is her ball control and her presence on the team. And just, here's a player that kind of came out of nowhere, wasn't highly recruited, and had come to our camp, and we just felt like they're a Purdue family, and she wanted to be here, and we wanted her here. We just didn't know that she was going to. We thought she was a great athlete because she was a 3-sport athlete in high school that excelled, even in track and field, which is a 1-class system. She was running 100 meters, and she was beating people that you wouldn't think she would beat, okay? But she was doing it. So we knew she had some of those skills, but she has developed, and because she's been in the gym more than any one of our players, I think she's probably been the one that spent more time in the gym than anybody in the team the last couple of years. And she's learned that from Jenna Otek, who learned it from Ashley Evans, who goes down the line, that you really want to get better, then you spend time in the gym.
Yeah, there's one way.
Maddie Chin from Detroit, I think she went to Notre Dame Academy, is really, really blowing up at the right time for us. She's had some great matches for us here lately, and 6'2", long arms, doesn't jump out of the gym, but has a lot of shots. She's a cerebral player. Been a great teammate all during this time, and she's been in the lineup and out of the lineup, not because she hasn't been good enough to stay in the lineup. It's just we've had a lot of good players fighting for playing time in those positions. But she's, her goals in life are to be a dentist. So she's a really high academic person. But she's also a really good leader on this team, and the type of player that's going to have to play really well for us here in the next 3 or 4 weeks if we want to have the kind of finish that we need. And then the third Maddie that we recruited in that class is Maddie Cook, who's I say she's from Green Bay because I don't pronounce what's the hometown. You know,
Ashwaubenon.
Ashwaubenon.
Yep.
I could probably say that, but I like to say the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
And
just down the road, really.
Yeah.
Couple miles.
Yeah. So, but she is a physical beast. I mean, she's just an absolutely beautiful young woman, but she has got the physical skills to take over a match. And last night in practice was one of the most impressive things. The issue with Maddie is that she's not always as good as she can be. And now every year you get a better percentage of how if she's going to be good, much more often. But man, was she good last night. She was unstoppable last night. And again, she's 6'2", she touches about 10'4", hits the ball. Maybe not harder than some people, but she's in our top 5 in the history at Purdue as far as how hard she hits the ball. Okay. And but she has to get it lined up right, and sometimes setting is important to her. She needs the right ball, but man, she's worked really hard to get to where she can adjust the ball. And when you start looking at some of these matches down the road where the rubber hits the road, where you're playing Michigan, who's got great physical talent. You're going to play Penn State. You're going to play Maryland, that's got great blocking, the best blocking team in the country, and Nebraska. All those teams, she needs to show up. Yeah. She really needs to be the player that can really go out, because she is as physical as anybody that we're going to see, and just a sweet human being. And she's in psychology. She wants to go out and help people that are struggling with mental health and all those kinds of things. So she has got a huge heart And we're excited that all three of those Maddies landed here at Purdue because they've made great contributions. Then you have Ava Torrance, and Ava is a little backcourt specialist that came out of Avon High School and is playing great. You know, it's funny because she's not on the floor. She hasn't started for a while. For a long time, she and Brownie were going back and forth, and then Brownie's passing numbers just surpassed everybody else on the team. And I mean, that means past Skimmerhorn, she passed, Horning. She's just been our best passer,
keep her off.
number-wise, and that's maybe as important of anything when you're looking at who's going to come in those spots. But Ava continues to nip at her heels and is serving tough. And every time she's come in the game here lately, she's performed at a really, really high level. And I think it was might have been Ohio State that we brought her in, and she might have been our best player against Ohio State on that particular night. But she's about 5'0", and but brings it every night. And she's a determined young woman. She's going to be very, very successful in life because she's got guts, she's got toughness, and she's going to see some time here coming forward because she just every day she steps in the gym, she's got one purpose, and that's to make herself better and make this team better. So really, those four have been terrific, and now I'm forgetting the fifth one.
Emma Ellis.
Okay, I don't forget him.
You went through the Maddies and then kind of got you out of sequence there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I always forget somebody for no particular reason, but Emma would be one of the last people you'd think you'd expect because if there's a crowd favorite on our team, I don't care who you talk to. That when they watch our team, they talk about Emma Ellis.
Yeah,
and
she's
maybe
electric.
it's the fro, maybe it's the huge smile,
Giant
maybe
smile,
it's just
yeah.
the energy that she plays with, the happy-go-lucky mentality that she has. But Emma's from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I remember watching her for the very first time at a tournament in Atlanta, Georgia, and I knew right then I wanted her at Purdue. I just felt like she had all the makings of being a great Big Ten player, and this has been her best year. She has really, maybe not hitting percentage-wise has been her best year, but she is playing with so much more confidence and belief in what she is doing as a hitter and a blocker, and she's asserted herself as a leader on this team, which really she hasn't done much of before. Of course, we had that huge class of seniors before her, and so that wasn't what her need was. But this year, she has really stepped forward and asserted herself, and both vocally and non-verbally, in how she wants this team to conduct themselves. And but we've had those three pin hitters that are similar in ability, and it's been hard at times to determine which couple are going to be on the floor. And then when you add Eva Hudson to the mix, Eva's been hard to take off the floor.
Yep.
Whenever you got maybe the freshman of the year in the Big Ten, and you're almost building an offense around somebody like that, it's hard to keep her off the floor. But the three seniors. And we talked about this for 4 years. Their ability to be great teammates, which is what our rally cry here is at Purdue. If you can't be a good teammate, you can't play here. We're not going to deal with it. And but those three have been leaders in how they conduct themselves on and off the floor and dealing with whatever might come up. And but every time they come in the gym, they're fighting, they're working hard, and that's probably the one thing I remember about this group is, number one, the accomplishments that they've contributed to since they've been here,
Yes.
but just the culture and how they've set the tone for other people that, it's not all about getting every opportunity you want. It's about what do you do to earn opportunities. And I think they've shown the way for the rest of our team.
It's really hard to be an underclassman on this team and see how the seniors approach it like that. Like role definition matters, as Annie Drews is famous for saying on a big stage. We'll talk about her in a minute.
Yeah.
But if you've got your seniors who are fighting for playing time but not mad when it doesn't come, it's pretty hard for you to be sour if you're a freshman or sophomore. That's the standard.
I wouldn't say they're not mad when it doesn't come, because they might be.
Well, they should be.
And it's okay to be mad when it doesn't come. It's just, are you still going to have the maturity and the selflessness that is necessary at that time? And then when you get back in the gym to practice, you better be out there to prove that you are worthy of being in the lineup, and that's what these guys have done.
Go earn it, absolutely. They went to the Sweet 16 as freshmen, back-to-back Elite Eights in those sophomore, junior campaigns, and like you said the other day, still remains to be seen what they do as seniors. We will talk about the tournament outlook.
And those losses that they took, one was at Baylor to the number one ranked team in the country.
Number one Baylor, that's right.
And then we lost to Kentucky, the eventual national champion in the COVID season, and then last year went to Pitt and lost a tough battle with Pitt, who then lost a 5-setter. I think to Nebraska. I want to say, or maybe it was. I'm not sure who they lost.
I think
to.
it was Nebraska.
They were right in it till the very end.
They were a great Pitt team.
Yeah, good Pitt team.
Yeah. We'll talk about this year's tournament outlook after the break. The Dig City podcast is presented by Franciscan Health Sports Medicine, inspiring health. Franciscan is the official medical services provider of Purdue Athletics. Now back to the show. Well, Coach, you've said several times this year we're going to go as far this season as our senior class takes us. We just talked about those seniors. Mm-hmm. How far can they go this season?
Well, I think this team is getting better all the time. And I had a reporter ask me the other day, what happened, you're kind of in a swoon right now. I think was the term he used, a swoon. I guess that means when you're dropping off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, usually in the Big Ten, wins and losses can be impacted by the people you're playing. And we knew our schedule this year was going to be a little easier in the first 10 matches and tougher in the last 10 matches. And that has been the case. Yeah. You hope you can steal some of those late, but we haven't. And but what I've seen is a team that continue to get better. Now, to my expectations all the time, no. So we've raised the temperature a little bit this week in practice. Our focus is more on us and not on who we're playing, because we have to get better. And I talked about that earlier, both offensively and defensively. We have to get better. But I think we're getting better. We're healthy. We have no excuses for why we shouldn't, except that we have a lot of new faces on this team this year. But we have good athletes, we have good players, we have the right attitude, the right culture, and it's just a matter of getting some belief here late in the season and go. And once that tournament starts, everything else is over. It's done. You put that in the back. In the back folder, and you move on. And we're a team that's had success in the NCAA tournament. We're accustomed to having success, and so I think when we get there, we're going to be okay. I don't know what. This year is the first year that they're going to seed 1 through 32.
Okay.
In the past many years, they just seed 1 through 16, and then it's by location. It's a fiscally sound tournament.
Regional.
And they're not going to just try to, like for example, men's and women's basketball, they seed 1 through 64. So doesn't matter, you might be from Rhode Island and you're going to be playing in Hawaii.
Yep. Okay,
if that's where you need to be. If you're 64 and Hawaii's 1, that's where you're going. They haven't done that in volleyball, and now at least they're getting halfway there.
Yeah.
So that certainly helps 1 through 32, but you may have some crazy matchups after that, because you still may have 2 really good teams. And the place where that hurts the most is in the Midwest and in California, the West Coast, because that's where a lot of the best teams are. So you still may have 4 really good teams. You could have a tournament, for example, at Ohio State that would have maybe Ohio State might be the 3 or 4 seed. So you're going to then have maybe the 29th seed, which could be let's throw a name out there.
Yeah, BYU.
Creighton.
Okay,
Creighton.
Okay.
Creighton goes in there, but then you can have 2 other non-Big Ten schools from the Midwest that are going to be playing there that could be pretty doggone good.
Yep.
Western Kentucky and somebody like that. So, but I think it's a positive step, and it's just another thing that is in line with the popularity of this sport right now, and the growth and the explosion of volleyball, that now all of a sudden they're taking this more seriously. I think women's basketball gets a little bit of a pass because they get what men's basketball gets, so that's why they've got 1 through 64. I think everybody at this table understands that right now volleyball has overtaken women's basketball, in popularity.
Starting to get the
both in
exposure.
numbers played, both in attendance, both in social media exposure, all of those things. and which is good for volleyball. And I know the women's basketball is now looking at that and thinking we got work to do,
Yep.
and they are doing some things to to get back in another great sport. But anyway, I think that. I don't know what your question was to begin with, but it was how are we going to do in the tournament?
Yeah, how are we going to do in the
think
tournament? Yeah.
The draw is important.
Yeah.
And are we going to be one of those top 32? And if we are right now, our RPI currently is 22 or 23, so we could end up playing an at-large bid team or somebody that wins a conference somewhere. And not the first time we've gone on the road to have to play.
Right, for sure.
And there's been twice we've done that and beaten two teams and upset the host team that was a top 16 team.
Yep.
Last time I think we did it was at Florida State.
Did it at Florida State. We've done it at Missouri.
And Missouri, yeah, I did it at
Missouri was
Missouri when they were
undefeated that 1 year.
undefeated. And
Yep.
we also went out to North Carolina our very first year in the tournament.
Yep.
And that we went to the Sweet 16, I should say. It wasn't the first time we were in the tournament. But anyway, so I'm talking really fast right now, but I just think we got to play well. And we got to just remember who we are, that we're Purdue, and that we go to the tournament, we're going to play well. We're a Big Ten university. And I think, especially this year, you look at the Big Ten, it's going to be undervalued because we may only get 6 or 7 teams in the tournament this year based on RPI. And how that's happened, I don't have a great explanation for it, but the RPI numbers are just down. I mean, right now, Michigan's 39, Northwestern's 46, Illinois 65. And the future RPI show them those numbers going downward, not upward, because of the schedule they have left. And I know Illinois and Michigan are both playing 3 teams that are less than 500 on the season. So that doesn't, even though they win, doesn't necessarily help their RPI because of the power they put into that formula. That 50% of your RPI is based on the record of your opponents. So if you play a Rutgers at this time of the year or an Iowa or a Michigan State, you can win, but it doesn't help your RPI. So I feel bad for those schools. I feel terrible for Northwestern, and that doesn't mean that they're not going to make the NCAA tournament. They could pull this thing together here, but they were in great shape 2 weeks ago. They were in a 5th set against Nebraska at home, and they were definitely an NCAA tournament team at that time. But their setter, their backup setter, because their starting setter is out with an injury, their backup setter goes into the bleachers, runs into a patron, the fan, and is now been out for the last. All last weekend, and so they go to Michigan and Michigan State, and they're using a defensive specialist to set the ball.
That's brutal.
And they get beat those 2 matches. They take a big hit in their RPI. So if she's back, then they got a shot. But if not, it's going to be a tough situation for them.
For sure, for sure. How much does it help having been there before? Like you've got sort of this Rolodex of experience. Like you said, we've gone on the road as an unseeded team. We've gone on the road and taken down the seeded team. We've been to the Sweet 16 a whole bunch of times.
Yeah,
how much do you draw?
I
on
think
that?
from a coaching staff perspective, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's really beneficial because you know what to expect. I remember the first time we did this, the first couple times we did this, there was a lot of nerves, there was a lot of unknowns. Now it's just like another weekend. You know, I mean, it's kind of like making another road trip in the Big Ten.
Don't make it special.
Yeah, it's just. Well, I'm just saying that you know what the expectations are, and you know what the routine is, and you know what the NCAA expects when you get there. There's lots of rules that they have now, but you understand what all those things are, so you're not going to be surprised by anything when you get there. And you know competition is going to be tough, and you know how to prepare for all the teams that are going to be there. There's going to be 3 other teams, so you've got to come with a file full of information on all those people and be prepared and play one point at a time, and understand that you still want it to be fun. It's not going to be all stress and business, but you want to make sure everybody feels good about what they're doing. So I do think players, now that we got a bunch of players that have been in those situations before, with as many seniors as we have, I think that you benefit from that experience.
How many more times are you going to get to do this? Have you thought about that at all? What the future looks like in that regard?
Fortunately, people don't think that I'm going anywhere because I'm not. One of the great things about this job is that it's the best job a guy could ever ask for. I mean, I just love it here. And when you look at the players that we have returning, and you look at the players that we have coming here, I mean, I think we just picked up the third best recruiting class in the country, including number one recruit in the land. We've got people lined up beyond that are coming here, but and so many great young players. So the future looks really good, and so I'm really excited about the opportunity to see if we can't get places we haven't been before.
Yep.
I mean that's part of the drive. The other drive is that this place means so much to me, and I think when you stop doing something like this, where a university that respects volleyball, a fan base that loves volleyball. How many sellouts have we had this year? Everyone.
All of them.
Everyone.
Yeah, the whole season.
And to walk into that gym is such a treat. The expectations are high. I mean, don't get me wrong. The 10 weeks of competing in the Big Ten is by far the most stressful 10 weeks that I have during the season.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of other jobs I could be doing that wouldn't be nearly as good. Okay, so I mean, I know how lucky I am. I know how blessed I am to be here and to have this job. And sometimes you just have to step back and put it in perspective. You're fighting. You got to make the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
You're Purdue University. You have to make the NCAA tournament. You have to beat some people in the NCAA tournament. Depending on what year it is, how many you need to beat. To really feel like you've done your job.
Mm-hmm.
So there's stress. Every step along the way. But I'll tell you what, those other 42 weeks of the year, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because you're the head volleyball coach at Purdue University, and you're in a culture that you've helped create with the help of so many players and so many other assistant coaches and support staff and administration that allows you to have a chance to beat anybody in the country. You look at some of the great programs in the country. Stanford, last time we played Stanford, Purdue won.
Mm-hmm.
Florida,
That's right.
last time we played Florida won. Okay, 2 of the last 3 times we played Wisconsin, Purdue won.
Yep.
Okay, we've had success against Minnesota. All the giant names in the sport of volleyball, we have a chance to beat,
Mm-hmm.
and we've done fairly well against them, especially here in the last 5-6 seasons. And I don't think that's going to change as we move forward. So. That's something as you've been around for a long time, and you look at Hugh McCutcheon, who's getting out of it in Minnesota, and there've been some other retirements just announced across the country.
Russ Rose stepped away last year.
Russ Rose got out of it. Kathy George, not happening here.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. I credit my assistant coaches for that. I mean, we've been together for such a long time. They take over so much of the responsibility that I don't care to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that might be. Now, I think the nuts and the bolts, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to get right after it. But some of the other things, and Mike Babinski, our athletic director, has been great to us. When we've asked him to hire an analytics guy, which only a handful of universities in the country have for the sport of volleyball, he asked why, and I told him why. He said that makes sense, and so we made some personnel changes. We had to give a little something up. But we got a position that we think is really, really important. So I'm really, really happy here, and I think our future is good. The Big Ten's a meat grinder, but who would not want to coach in the best volleyball conference for volleyball, for women's volleyball in the world for college athletes? So it has its ups and downs.
Yeah, more ups than downs for sure. And Purdue's as lucky to have you as you are. You feel blessed to be here. Last thing, get you out of here because we've gone a little bit longer than normal because we've got so much to talk about. Annie Drews is back this weekend for the first time since Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
I know her schedule's been pretty grueling too between professional and national team duties. But just what's it going to mean to have Annie back in Holloway Gymnasium to celebrate her achievements?
Well, one of the biggest accomplishments for Purdue volleyball in their history is Annie Drews. Being on the roster of the USA women's team to win a gold medal for the first time, and not only for them to win it, for her to, in my biased opinion, I'm sure, lead the way.
Uh-huh.
Annie had kind of been a starter with the USA team for a couple of seasons, and then Jordan Thompson, an incredible athlete out of the University of Cincinnati, kind of emerged late before the Olympics started and kind of got the start. And she was playing out of her mind until she sprains an ankle about halfway through the Olympics.
Yep.
And luckily, Karch Karai had Annie Drews, a veteran left-hander, to call out of the bullpen. And boy, was she ready.
She sure was.
And she just put on a show down the stretch in that Olympics in Tokyo, and literally led them to a championship, the first ever for women. And for me to sit in my family room and watch that on big screen TV, it was just enormous for me and for Purdue, and for her finally to have the opportunity to come back. Because as you mentioned, it's not like the Olympics is over. People don't realize those people are all playing pro.
Yeah.
They're playing pro, and for her it was in Japan. Now she has taken a little bit of time off. She took the first half of the season off of the pro because she just wanted to, as she said, fill some other buckets.
Sure.
She wanted to do some other things in life. She recently got married to a former Purdue baseball player, and her family lives up in Elkhart. Her mom and dad, are in Elkhart. Mom and dad are both Ball State people, which is part of the reason we got Annie to come to
So it's
Purdue.
one of my favorite stories.
Because we knew them. Dad was a basketball player at Ball State, and he and I were both on the coaching staff at Muncie Central together. He was the head basketball coach, and I was the volleyball coach. Our wives were both in sorority together, and so there was a lot of familiarity. So that always helps, when you can get that. And fortunately, another funny story about Annie is we were recruiting her, and we had one scholarship. We were recruiting her and one other player, a backcourt player, one of the best in the business. And Notre Dame was doing the exact same thing.
Oh.
And so both us and Notre Dame, we knew we were getting one of them. We were going to get a great libero, or we were getting a great left-handed attacker. And the way it just played out was that we got Annie, and at the end of the day, she was the one that led the Olympic team to a gold medal and had a lot of kills for us while she was here at Purdue. And what a delightful person that she is. And yeah, you're right. She's getting back for the first time, and she'll be here for that Michigan match. She's going to be, I think, at the third quarter doing the shout at the football game. So that will be exciting for her, and she'll do a great job with that. What a great representative of Purdue she has been and will be. And so we're looking forward to seeing her here for the Michigan match. She gets in, I think, tomorrow. I know she's got some things with you guys as far as doing some video work and some interviews and a lot of those kind of things. But excited to have her back. We're going to go out to dinner with her a couple of times, I think, while she's here, so it'll be fun.
Good. Well, enjoy that. Good luck Friday night against Michigan and Sunday out in Lincoln, and can't wait to talk to you next week.
Okay, appreciate you, Corey. Thank you. Bye.
Well,